The objective of this video is to explain what Boolean logic is and why it's helpful. So we'll have some fun with truth tables today. I wonder if you've ever played the game Two Truths and One Lie. It's something I did in college actually, and it's usually a pretty fun game. The point of Two Truths and One Lie is the idea that with truth tables, if it's a 0, think of that as the lie, and if it's a 1, then it's a truth. So if you're not very familiar with that game or the idea of truth tables at all, don't worry, we'll cover it in today's lesson. Not only do electric circuits work in this way, using truth tables, but search engines do as well. What we've not started is building circuits with Tinkercad. That'll be something that pops up in this unit. Currently in progress, just learning HTML elements and attributes and working with that on websites. We'll have a master website for this unit, just like the others, where that website will contain all this information you're learning about. And what we've completed is the idea of tags, using angle brackets to create tags in HTML. Alright, so let's get started. Boolean logic is a form of algebra in which all values are reduced to either true or false. So don't freak out on me. I'm not going to start teaching you algebra. We're not going to do very much math in class in general. But this idea, Boolean logic, this is how computers, how game systems, how your phone work. They all follow this Boolean logic. At the same time, Boolean search is a type of search allowing users to combine words with operators such as and, not, and or to produce more relevant results. You have Boolean logic for computers and Boolean search for the internet. What did I just say Boolean search does? So Boolean logic, when you're asked, would you like coffee or tea, you're not expected to say yes to both, right? In the Boolean case, however, the or most certainly includes both. So instead, there's a Boolean operator that corresponds to the English use of the term or, and it's called an exclusive or, written as EOR or XOR. A lot of programmers are going to just say XOR. So what's the difference between XOR and OR? So for visual learners, here's a nice little graphic for you to keep in your mind as you wrap your mind around the and, or, and not gates. One way to look at Boolean logic would be this. However, I just don't like it. Let's assume the question is, do you have a pet? So if you have a puppy and kitten, obviously you're yellow in the middle. So that would be both terms. If you have a puppy or kitten and we just don't know, then the whole thing would be yellow. Technically, you could have both, so it still works. And then there's the not gate. So if you have a kitten, then puppy would be highlighted. So I know it's a little confusing, but these are essentially how gates work. And here is a good way to visualize it that I like. This thing right here is called a truth table. So you have inputs right here and then outputs. So if we're working with the Boolean logic and using the operator and, so if A is off and B is off, then the output is off. If we're talking about A is off and B is on, then the output's still going to be off. Same with this one. However, if A is on and B is on, then the output is going to be on. And you can look at the or. So if the input is 0 or B is 0, output 0. If A is off or B is on, then the on is the output. So I like these truth tables. The first two we will focus on is the and or. There's a lot more for us to learn, but that'll for the most part be extra. So how do truth tables work? In your own words, basically describe what I was telling you right here. So electric circuits get even more exciting when you start learning how to draw the diagrams, draw the symbols, and use those symbols in schematics. If you really want to learn more about circuit analysis, I highly suggest you watch the professor from the Colorado School of Mines. He's on YouTube. Really easy to find. Just YouTube search Colorado School of Mines Electrical Engineering, and you'll be sure to find him right away. especially for you seniors who might want a taste as to what college is going to be like. He uses, the lecture format, and I'm sure that'll be very common regardless of the college you choose to go to. So let's talk a little bit more about Boolean search now. It says most online databases and search engines support Boolean searches. So Boolean search techniques can be used to carry out effective searches, cutting out many unrelated documents or unrelated links. So Boolean search is definitely, supposed to increase your productivity. I like this diagram right here. It says Twitter list, fishing in event, specific sea with wide net. So you can just, if you search for something, there's all types of results that could appear. But if you're using a Boolean search on Twitter, you're in the ocean with a very specific bait that will only attract that result that you're looking for. So a great visualization to keep in mind when thinking about the difference between Boolean search and just a regular search. So to wrap up what we were talking about with Boolean search, you've seen this information right here before. I just want some follow-up think right shares to be done. What would you type in if you wanted to find a website that is both educational and entertaining? And what would you search if you wanted either security or convenience? And some humorous pictures for you. I thought that was cool. Somebody put and or not on their knuckles. And the picture is sad but funny. The father is saying, go ask your search engine when the son has a question for him. Here's an optional video for you to watch. Crash Course does great stuff, especially in the context of history and science classes. But apparently they have some computer science videos as well, so I encourage you to check that out. I wrote down a couple notes for you. Just like my big takeaways from the video. You have a control wire, which is essentially the input that a machine gets. One of the electrodes would be the output. A fun way to remember some of these diagrams is triangle and dot for not. The D for and, the D in and then spaceship for Earth, or, okay, I had a hard time finding a witty way to remember this little spaceship symbol, meaning the OR gate. But essentially, these three are good ways for you to try to memorize what those diagrams are. At some point in class, it would be great if you can draw your own schematics. But even if you're not drawing them, at the end of class, we'll be creating circuits. You'll be able to build them through a virtual environment and test to see if they work or not. All right, quick joke for you. What did the Boolean say to the integer? You can't handle the truth. Boolean value, either true or not, on or off. Okay, so the DOL is what is Boolean logic and why is it helpful? And the second one is just simply what is the purpose of a Boolean search? And here's a great example of an exemplary DOL. Boolean logic is another foundational concept to computing. How many foundations can we have? A Boolean value depends on true and false, if and or. This is helpful when we need to create circuits to add and subtract. And the second one here is Boolean search is helpful when you want to limit your search to a very specific type of information.